What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Motorola Moto G Stylus 2022 and the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G. Now before we go any further, I do want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to learn more about either of these phones, be sure to check out my full reviews and tips and tricks videos for them as well. But with that being said, let's get started. So the Moto G Stylus 2022 has a 6.8-inch 90Hz IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 396, an aspect ratio of 20.5 by 9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 84.6%. We got a hole punch up here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 16 megapixels. So overall, definitely a really nice display, looks really good, the image is really sharp and crisp, and the colors look great. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, we're getting a 6.5-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 407, an aspect ratio of 20 by 9, and a screen-to-body ratio of about 84.1%. So again, really nice looking display. I would say the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G does look a tiny bit better due to the Super AMOLED display, although it is really close. Now another advantage the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G has is the 120Hz refresh rate. It's going to make the movement on the screen a little bit faster and smoother, although the Moto G Stylus 2022 does have a 90Hz refresh rate, which is going to do basically the same thing, just not to as high of a degree as we get with the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G. Now this honestly isn't really going to make a huge difference. Yeah, it'll make the phone feel a little bit more premium when you're using it, but honestly in my opinion, anything above a 60Hz refresh rate is going to do just that. Once you start comparing 90Hz to 120Hz, it's really not going to make enough of a difference for you to be able to tell. But again, I will say I do think the colors look a little bit brighter and more vibrant on the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, although it is really close. Now on the other hand, the Moto G Stylus 2022 has a clear advantage when it comes to size, being first of all much larger, but also it has a slightly taller form factor. So when you're streaming videos in landscape mode and stuff like that, it's going to look a little bit better. And when you're reading things, you'll also be able to fit more on the screen without scrolling as much. So it really comes down to quality versus size. If you want a tiny bit higher quality display, then the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is going to be a better option here. But if you want a much larger display, the Moto G Stylus 2022 clearly has the advantage. And then almost forgot to mention, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G also has a hole punch for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 32 megapixels. Now for storage, both of these phones do have 128 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, although the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G does have a variant with 256. So this is really a great amount of storage. Whether you're an average user or a power user, you really can't get too much storage these days, with apps in the system and pretty much everything getting larger and larger as time goes on. It's always good to have more storage than you think you need, and with these phones, you're definitely getting that. Now there's no wireless charging with either of these phones, but they both have both a fingerprint scanner and face unlock, so two options to unlock them, definitely a good thing. With the Moto G Stylus 2022, we got a fingerprint scanner right here on the power key, and with the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, it's right here in the display. So starting with the Moto G Stylus 2022, let's go ahead and give these fingerprint scanners a try and see how well they work. There we go, one more time. And there we go. Real fast and responsive, no issues here. Moving on to the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So real fast and responsive as well. Both of these fingerprint scanners work perfectly fine. It really just comes down to where you want it. I do think having it on the power key is a little bit more practical, but I personally really like the look of having an in-display fingerprint scanner. It looks so nice and modern and more premium as well. So I personally would choose that, but if you do want something a little bit more practical and convenient, then the Moto G Stylus 2022 with the fingerprint scanner on the power key might be a better choice for you. But again, it really just comes down to personal preference. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because both of them work really well. Now for the rear camera setup here, the Moto G Stylus 2022 has a triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera that also doubles as a macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. With the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, we're getting a quad camera here with a 64 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera for portrait mode, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So feature-wise, these phones are about equal. Besides a telephoto lens that really only flagship phones have, these phones have pretty much every camera feature a smartphone has to offer. But with that being said, quality-wise, I will say the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is a little bit of a step up. So if you want to take really high quality photos, if you're just constantly using the camera, then the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is going to be the best option here. But if you still want to take a few nice photos here and there, but it's not your top concern, then the Moto G Stylus 2022 is still going to get the job done just fine. In fact, compared to other phones in its price range, this is definitely one of the better ones. Now for video, the Moto G Stylus 2022 maxes out at 1080p in both the rear and front cameras, and the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G can shoot 4K in both the rear and front cameras. So again, video-wise, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is going to be the better choice here. Internally, the Moto G Stylus 2022 is getting 6GB of RAM with the MediaTek Helio G88 processor. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is getting 6GB of RAM as well with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 750G processor. There is another variant of the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G that has 8GB of RAM instead, but this is not it. Now with that being said, I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on both of these phones, and the Moto G Stylus 2022 came back with a single core score of 368 and a multi-core score of 1304. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G came back with a single core score of 647 and a multi-core score of 1939. So clearly here, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G does have a huge advantage. It's going to be much faster and perform better overall. So whether you're doing higher end activities like gaming or video editing or something like that, or if you're just on your phone a lot, using social media, streaming videos, that sort of thing, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is going to be a much better choice for that. It's going to perform a lot better and be faster overall, and you definitely will notice the difference in performance. In addition to this, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, as the name suggests, does have 5G connectivity, whereas the Moto G Stylus 2022, although there is a 5G version of this phone, doesn't have 5G connectivity. This is just the 4G one. The Moto G Stylus 5G was released in June of 2021, and I feel like there's probably going to be a successor this year, but this is not it. Again, this is just a 4G phone. So out of the two, if you want a phone that has 5G, then the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is of course going to be the way to go. But all that being said, the Moto G Stylus 2022, despite not being nearly as fast as the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, is still not a slow phone by any means. So if you're just going to be browsing the web, going on social media, maybe streaming some videos, but really not a whole lot else, then this phone is still going to be a great option. Now the Moto G Stylus 2022 has a 5000 mAh battery that supports 10 watt fast charging, and the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G has a 4500 mAh battery that supports 25 watt fast charging. So there is a little bit of a difference here. On one hand, the Moto G Stylus 2022 is going to have noticeably better battery life. It's not going to be like night and day, but still, not only is this battery larger, but the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G with a much more powerful processor and a Super AMOLED display with a 120Hz refresh rate is just going to consume a lot more power in general. So if battery life is your main concern, then the Moto G Stylus 2022 is going to be the better option here. Now the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G does have better fast charging, and I did actually experience that for myself when I charged this phone up right before this video, and I will say it does charge up super fast. So honestly, I don't really think having a slightly smaller battery and consuming more power in general is really that much of a hindrance compared to the Moto G Stylus 2022. But in general, since it does have a larger battery, I would say the Moto G Stylus 2022 does have an advantage here. Now as far as other features go, the Moto G Stylus, of course, as the name suggests, does have a stylus, and it works pretty much exactly how you'd expect it to work. Not the best thing in the world, definitely not near the level of a higher end phone like the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra for example, but if you just want to doodle or maybe navigate through the phone with it, the stylus is still pretty useful. On the other hand, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G does have NFC, and the Moto G Stylus 2022 doesn't. So if you want to use mobile contactless payment services like Google Pay, then you'll probably want to go with the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G because this phone can actually use that feature, whereas the Moto G Stylus 2022 of course can't. But now that we've gone over some of the specs, let's take a closer look at the devices themselves. So on the left side here, for the Moto G Stylus 2022, we got the slot for the SIM card and the microSD card, nothing for the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G. On the bottom here, for both phones, we got the 3.5mm headphone jacks, USB-C ports, microphones, speakers, and for the Moto G Stylus, of course, we got the stylus. On the right side here, we got the power keys, volume down, volume up, and remember, for the Moto G Stylus 2022, the power key is also the fingerprint scanner. On the top here, we got the noise-canceling microphones. For the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, we got the slot for the SIM card and the microSD card. On the back, we got the camera setups, the flash, and respective branding right here. The Moto G Stylus 2022, as you can see, has a nice metallic finish. I really do like the look of this. It does pick up some fingerprints, but it doesn't look too bad. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G has more of a matte finish, and you really can't see fingerprints at all on here. So honestly, I do think the Moto G Stylus 5G does look a little bit more premium, but it's really close. It also has a little bit more weight to it, which really adds to this effect. Even though the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is objectively a much higher end phone than the Moto G Stylus, it doesn't really feel like it, or look like it for that matter. I mean, neither of these phones looks cheap by any means, but I just feel like with the weight and the metallic parts, the Moto G Stylus 2022 just feels a little bit more premium. But in general, both of these phones do look really good, and you're not going to go wrong with either design. Now, as far as viewing angles go, as you can see, the Moto G Stylus 2022 really isn't very good, especially compared to the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, where you can at least see it from pretty much every angle. But in conclusion, which of these devices is better? Well, clearly, being a much higher end phone, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is going to be the better device, but the Moto G Stylus 2022, impressively, isn't really that far behind. For one, yes, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G does have a much higher quality display, but the Moto G Stylus 2022 is much larger, with a better form factor as well. They're pretty equal on storage. Both of them have really good security features with nice fingerprint scanners and face unlock as well. And for the camera, although the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G can take better pictures, the Moto G Stylus 2022 still has all the features, so you're really not missing out on a whole lot, especially if you're just using the photos for social media or something like that, where the quality is probably going to be distorted or compressed in some way anyway. Now, the biggest advantage the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G has, in my opinion, is the processor. This phone is so much faster than the Moto G Stylus, it's really no contest. And 5G connectivity to go on top of this, and NFC. This is really where you can tell that the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is a noticeably higher end device, but at the same time, the Moto G Stylus 2022, again, is not slow by any means, and if you're just doing basic activities, it will get the job done perfectly fine. But again, if you're going to be on your phone a lot, or you're doing higher end activities like more graphics intensive gaming or maybe video editing, then the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is going to have a huge advantage. And when it comes to the battery, this is a little ambiguous. I do think the Moto G Stylus 2022 has an advantage here. Now, I haven't really done enough tests to know how much of an advantage, but in theory, the Moto G Stylus 2022 will have a significant advantage here, except for the fast charging. I will say the A52 5G does charge up super fast, but regardless, both of these phones do have great batteries. So at the end of the day, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is the better device here, but if you want a larger display, or if you want to have a stylus or a larger battery, or if you just don't need that much processing power, if you're not going to be on your phone constantly, and you're really just going to be doing more basic activities, then the Moto G Stylus 2022 is still a good option. Once again, if you want to learn more about either of these phones, be sure to check out my full reviews and tips and tricks videos for them on the channel. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. But as always, I will see you in the next video.